In this third part, we're starting to focus on you and on your well-being, on identifying the symptoms of stress and the impact that stress can have on our ability to act in a way that's consistent with our values as a carer, what kind of carer we would like to be. So what is stress? This model of a seesaw is used to indicate how, hopefully for the most part, the demands placed upon us are equally matched by the resources at our disposal to cope with those demands. Whereas if the seesaw tips, if the demands increase and that's not matched by an increase in resources, then stress arises. So stress indicates a lack of balance between demands and resources. Another image used sometimes is that of a stress bucket. So imagine your stresses gradually build up in the bucket, water filling the bucket. The stresses are caused by the things that the demands placed on you. Maybe it's running the house, maybe increasingly it's involvement in caring for your relative. Perhaps you have other commitments, perhaps you go to work or have voluntary commitments, and so on and so on. So all of these are the stressors that gradually fill up the bucket. So in order to counterbalance it, you need taps to release the water. So those taps might be around all sorts of things that help you. It could be from practical help to just simply having someone else to talk to. It could be more specific relaxation or mindfulness exercises, which we're going to talk about later. It could be having an opportunity to have a break from the caring responsibilities. It could be taking exercise, basically doing the things you enjoy, and we'll talk about some of those things later on. So in the next few slides, we're going to be looking at the symptoms of stress. And these are physical, emotional, cognitive, so in terms of what you think, and behavioural, in terms of what you do. There are a whole range of physical signs and symptoms which could be signals to you that you're becoming stressed. So these might be anything from particular muscular tension and headaches to difficulty sleeping to tiredness to increased heart rate, and probably certain signs and symptoms will be particular to you, but they really need to be recognised as an indication that things are perhaps getting a little bit too much. And in addition to the physical signs, there are often accompanying emotions and feelings that tend to be fairly negative, from irritability to feeling overwhelmed, to feeling bad about yourself, to feeling guilty. All of these sorts of things, again, are potentially signs of stress. And typically, when we get stressed, we tend to ruminate, we tend to worry about things that are going on in the present, the future, and even the past. We tend to have trouble concentrating, and because of that it appears that we're having memory lapses. We tend to struggle with decision making and just thinking clearly. So again, these are other signs that we might be becoming stressed. And some people exhibit behavioural signs and symptoms of stress. They maybe develop rather a short fuse, lose their temper easily. Maybe they start to drink or smoke more than they usually do, or there's a change in their eating habits, eating more or eating less, withdrawal sometimes, avoiding people, sometimes blaming other people, and just generally not following through on things. Basically to say that these symptoms are well recognised and actually underpinning the very well-known cognitive behavioural therapy, or CBT, are the fact that symptoms are interrelated, so that what we think will then affect how we feel in terms of our emotions and our physical sensations, and in terms of what we do, i.e. how we behave. So now we're going to apply this to a situation which I suspect will be familiar to many of you. So you're caring for someone with dementia. They ask you a question, but actually they've already asked you that same question, you've already patiently answered them 4 times in the last half an hour. So your mind starts to whir, you start to think, I've already told you that, how many more times? Why can't you remember that kind of thing? And you're feeling intensely frustrated and irritated, and perhaps your heart rate is raised, you're getting tense, and in that moment you lose it. You shout and you say something along the lines of, I've already told you that 4 times. And then, of course, moments later you're feeling, I shouldn't shout. You're telling yourself, I shouldn't shout, I'm a bad wife. You're feeling guilty and ashamed and angry at yourself. Maybe some more, you begin to feel quite shaky in terms of your physical sensations, and other behavioural consequences perhaps arise, and you're in a bit of a spiral. So is there anything we can do, anything we can suggest that might be helpful in this kind of situation? So in difficult situations, such as when someone's being very repetitive, it's very natural to have these sorts of thoughts and these sorts of feelings, both physical and emotional. And I suppose one of our messages is, don't beat yourself up about those. In the circumstances, they're natural. What's obviously concerning to you is if that results in a behaviour that is not consistent with how you would like to behave. So somehow or other, we need to put in some sort of a pause point, give you some sort of means of making a divide between the thoughts and the feelings, to give you time to choose a behaviour that's more the kind of behaviour that you would like to adopt, so more in keeping with your values. So that's what we're going to be thinking about in the last part, and hopefully in this next break we can share what kind of values you have, what kind of carer would you like to be.